My name's Lena Carter, I'm 31 years old, and until a few months ago, I thought silence was the most graceful way to handle pain. I used to believe that if you stayed quiet, the world would see through the lies eventually. That if you walked away with dignity, people would remember the truth. I was wrong. Because when someone decides to turn your heartbreak into entertainment, your silence doesn't look strong. It looks guilty. The morning it all began, I woke up to a flood of notifications. Hundreds of tags, messages, and missed calls. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing, not for hours. When I finally opened it, I realized my name was trending. Not for anything I'd done recently, but because my ex-boyfriend had decided to feature me in his latest podcast episode. He called it, "The Girl Who Tried to Cancel Me." Cute title, right? He laughed while telling stories about me, twisting memories, exaggerating moments, inventing entire conversations that never happened. And his audience? They ate it up. They laughed at me, judged me, picked apart my face, my voice, my career, every piece of me I'd once shared with him in confidence. I sat there on my bed, staring at the screen, watching his smug grin as he mocked me like I was a punchline. My hands were shaking, but not from sadness this time, from rage, because he forgot one thing. For every story he told, I had proof. Real proof. Messages, voice notes, screenshots, the kind that could unravel his entire truth in seconds. He thought his mic gave him power. He forgot I still had the messages. I grew up in a quiet corner of Ohio, the kind of place where everyone waves when they drive by and still remembers who your grandparents were. My family was small but steady. My mom, Diane, worked as a nurse for 30 years, and my dad, Tom, taught high school history. My younger brother, Evan, is the tech genius of the family, the kind who could fix your Wi-Fi while making you feel dumb for not knowing how. We were never the loud, dramatic kind of family. We handled things privately, with calm voices and too much grace. My mom used to say, "Lena, sometimes silence speaks louder than anger." I held on to that, maybe too tightly. When I met Ryan, my ex, I thought I'd finally found someone who understood ambition. He was charming, funny, and endlessly talkative. He'd just started his podcast, a tiny passion project recorded in his friend's living room. I admired that he was chasing something he loved. I didn't see back then that he loved the sound of his own voice more than anything else. At first, my family adored him. Ryan had this easy warmth. He brought wine for my mom, joked with my dad about football, and helped Evan set up a new microphone for his gaming setup. But my parents noticed what I refused to, how Ryan's jokes about me were never really jokes. He'd tease me about my job, my anxiety, the way I overthink everything. I brushed it off as humor. Everyone said he was just being funny, but somewhere deep down I felt the sting, the quiet disrespect that hides behind a smile. And when my mom warned me, "Don't let anyone make a show out of your pain," "Sweetheart," I laughed. I didn't realize how prophetic those words would become. Ryan and I broke up quietly. No screaming, no public posts, just a slow fade that ended with a few tired texts and one last, "I hope you find what you're looking for." I thought that was the end of it. I really did. For weeks after, I avoided social media. I buried myself in work, tried new recipes, went for walks. I was healing, or at least pretending to. My friends told me I dodged a bullet. My mom said time would make the memories softer. And it did, until one Tuesday morning when everything shattered. I was getting ready for a meeting when my phone lit up with a message from Evan. "Lena, have you listened to Ryan's new episode?" I hadn't. I didn't even follow him anymore. But curiosity, or maybe fear, made me open Spotify. The title glared back at me like a slap across the face. "The Girl Who Tried to Cancel Me." I pressed play. His voice, the same one that used to whisper love into my ear, was now full of laughter. He told stories about me crying during arguments, about how I'd manipulated him, how I'd ruined his confidence. He even imitated my voice, mocking the way I used to apologize too much. And people loved it. The comments were merciless. "She sounds unhinged." Classic toxic girlfriend behavior. Poor guy. Good for him for speaking his truth. My stomach twisted. My hands shook so hard I could barely hold my phone. Every private argument, every vulnerable confession, twisted into something ugly, exaggerated, cruel. He'd taken my heartbreak and turned it into content. That night, I sat on the floor of my living room scrolling through hundreds of comments from strangers debating who I was, what I'd done, and why I deserved it. My coworkers had heard the episode. Even my old college roommate sent a pity text. I wanted to disappear, to let it fade. But then I remembered something he didn't. Every time Ryan apologized, every "I didn't mean it," every "please don't leave," he'd sent it in writing. I still had the messages, the voice notes, the proof of what he was really like when the mic was off. He thought he could rewrite our story. He forgot I still had the original script. I didn't post everything at once. That would have felt reckless. I wasn't trying to humiliate him in a blind rage. I just wanted the truth out there, piece by piece. My first post was vague but pointed. Funny how the truth sounds different off mic. No names. No screenshots. Just a feeling. And it worked. People noticed. DMs flooded in, some supportive, some skeptical, some cruel. But for the first time in weeks, I felt a flicker of control. Evan helped me organize everything I had, timestamps of messages, voice notes, screenshots of conversations that proved the lies. He showed me how to post it without breaking any laws. The truth doesn't need embellishment, just clarity. I started small. A screenshot here, a clipped voice note there. One post contradicted something he said on the podcast. Not in a confrontational way, just quietly factual. People started noticing inconsistencies in his story. Comments shifted from mocking me to questioning him. It was subtle, almost imperceptible. But with every post, I felt my confidence returning. I wasn't the punchline anymore. I was the one holding the facts. And then came the messages from him. "Lena, please stop. This isn't what I want. We can talk this out privately. You're making a scene." I read them, felt the old pangs of heartbreak, then put my phone down. I didn't respond. I realized something crucial. He thought he had power because he spoke louder, because his audience laughed with him. But laughter doesn't change facts. And facts, my facts, had power he hadn't reckoned with. Over the next few days, I continued releasing small proofs, carefully, strategically. I didn't need millions of people to see everything yet. I only needed enough to plant doubt. Enough to let people see that the truth he broadcasted wasn't the whole story. And slowly, I watched it happen. The tide turning. Conversations online shifted. People who had been ready to tear me apart started asking questions. Was he really telling the whole story? Did he exaggerate? It was intoxicating, not because of revenge, but because finally, the world could see the truth behind the smirk and the microphone. And in the quiet moments between posts, I kept reminding myself the full story wasn't out yet. Not until the right time. Ryan didn't take my subtle posts lightly. Within days, he recorded another podcast episode defending himself, painting me as the bitter ex, the villain of our story. His fans rallied behind him, reposting his jokes, twisting my small revelations into proof that I was overreacting. But I was ready. Evan and I had spent hours organizing everything, timestamps, screenshots, even voice notes where he contradicted every single claim he had made publicly. Each piece was undeniable, and I could feel the puzzle coming together. The online storm grew. Comment sections exploded into arguments. She's lying versus he's manipulating. Hashtags began trending. People tagged his sponsors, questioned his ethics, and dissected every episode. At home, my family noticed the shift. My mom, Diane, hugged me one evening and whispered, "Lena, sometimes standing up is scarier than standing still. But you're doing the right thing." My dad, Tom, nodded quietly, pride in his eyes. Even Evan smirked, saying, "You're about to drop the hammer, and no one's ready for it." Meanwhile, Ryan's attempts to reach me privately intensified. Calls, texts, desperate voice notes pleading for calm. But I didn't respond. I had to be patient. Timing mattered. Emotional reaction would weaken the impact. I felt the tension in every heartbeat. Every post I scheduled, every screenshot I uploaded felt like walking on a knife's edge. I wasn't just fighting for myself anymore. I was exposing someone who had built an audience on lies. Someone who thought his charm could protect him. And then, one night, as I reviewed everything one last time, a strange calm settled over me. I realized that this wasn't about revenge. It was about reclaiming my narrative, reclaiming my dignity. The truth had been waiting quietly in my phone for months, and now I had the courage to let it speak. I double-checked the thread I had prepared. Every message, every voice note, every proof lined up like dominoes, ready to topple the facade he had so carefully built. I took a deep breath, fingers hovering over the post button. This was it. The moment where silence ends and truth takes the stage. The post went live at midnight. I watched the screen light up with notifications almost immediately. Screenshots, voice notes, messages, and everything. Every time he had lied on that podcast, there was proof that he had said the exact opposite in private. Every manipulation, every false story, every cruel joke laid bare. Within minutes, the thread went viral. Millions of views. Comments flooded in, some angry, some supportive, all questioning him. Fans who once cheered at his jokes now began scrutinizing every episode, every word he had said about me. And then it happened. Ryan called. I didn't answer. He texted, frantic. Lena, please, stop. You're ruining me. I didn't mean it like that. I love you. I swear I didn't. I read the messages, my heart pounding. For a brief second, the old feelings flickered. The man I once loved, pleading, desperate, vulnerable. But this wasn't him. Not the man I trusted. This was someone who had built his life on mocking me, on twisting my story for applause. I typed back, slow and steady. You're right. You didn't mean it like that. You meant it exactly like that. And now everyone can see it. His calls kept coming. His DMs endless. He begged, pleaded, even threatened. But I didn't respond. I didn't need to. I didn't want to give him the satisfaction of knowing he still had control over my emotions. The public fallout was instantaneous. His sponsors pulled out. Podcast platforms issued warnings. Friends who had once celebrated him began messaging privately, shocked by the evidence. And through it all, I stayed quiet, letting the truth speak for itself. Later, I received one last voicemail from him. It was soft, almost broken. Lena? Please, I never wanted it to go this far. I'm sorry. I listened, heart aching, then deleted it. No apology would undo the years of manipulation, the public humiliation, the nights I cried alone. That night, I sat on my balcony, staring at the city lights. The storm was still raging online, but inside me, something shifted. I felt free. Not because I had hurt him, not because he was finally paying the price, but because I had finally reclaimed my voice. I realized something essential. The truth isn't just words on a screen. It's the courage to stand firm even when the world tells you to stay silent. And in that moment, I knew I wasn't the victim of a joke, a podcast, or even public opinion. I was the one who had taken back her life, one message at a time. He thought the microphone gave him power. But the messages, the ones he forgot about, gave me mine. The next few days were surreal. My phone didn't stop buzzing. Notifications, DMs, tags, some supportive, some cruel, some just sheer shock. The thread went viral beyond anything I had imagined. News outlets picked it up. Podcasts dissected the story. Even late-night shows mentioned it in passing. Ryan disappeared almost entirely from social media. He deleted episodes, shut down accounts, tried to rebuild his reputation quietly, but the evidence was everywhere. Screenshots, messages, and voice notes had been saved, shared, and reposted. The internet has a memory, and his lies had finally caught up with him. People had reactions, of course. Some called me vindictive, accused me of taking it too far, even questioned my motives. But my family, the ones who mattered most, stood by me unwaveringly. My mom hugged me more tightly than ever, telling me, "You were brave. Lena, you spoke your truth when silence would have only let him win." My dad nodded, proud but quiet, and Evan practically celebrated every new post that corrected the lies. It wasn't just about the public victory. It was personal. I slept better, walked taller, and laughed a little easier. I could sit in a room without replaying every cruel joke he had made, every comment section that tore me apart. The burden of carrying the story alone was gone. Even friends I thought were gone returned, cautiously reaching out to tell me they were proud of me, or that they had realized the truth after all. The digital world can be cruel, yes, but it can also reflect honesty when you have the courage to let it shine. And I learned something about myself. I discovered that courage isn't always loud. Sometimes it's sitting quietly for weeks, gathering proof, planning carefully, and then, when the time is right, allowing the truth to speak louder than any microphone ever could. I didn't need to humiliate him to feel vindicated. I didn't need revenge to feel strong. I just needed to reclaim my voice and remind myself, and the world, that no one else can define your story. By the end of it all, the world had seen his lies, and I had finally seen my own strength. Sitting here now a few months later, I still scroll past old notifications, old posts, and sometimes even Ryan's name pops up in trending searches. And every time it does, I take a deep breath and remind myself of one simple truth. The microphone doesn't make the story true. Only honesty does. I learned that people will always try to twist your life for laughs, clicks, or attention. They will take the moments you trusted them with and spin them into something unrecognizable. And sometimes even those closest to you will hesitate to see the truth until it's undeniable. But I also learned that the truth, no matter how quietly held, is never powerless. My courage didn't come from anger or revenge. It came from reclaiming my narrative, piece by piece, message by message, until the story no longer belonged to someone else. I don't celebrate the downfall of someone who once meant so much to me. I don't gloat over the public attention or the chaos. What I do celebrate is the peace I found in my own strength. The nights I slept without fear, the mornings I woke without trembling, the days I could hold my head high and walk freely. The messages he forgot about weren't weapons. They were reminders. Reminders that truth lives, even when it's buried under laughter, under lies, under someone else's version of your story. And when you finally let it out, carefully, honestly, it can set you free. I'm Lena Carter. I'm 31 years old. And for the first time in months, I can say I am no longer afraid of my own story, because I own it, fully, and it belongs to no one else. And that is enough.